Hey guys, Paul here, welcome to today's video. In this episode, we're looking at the Sim Racing MasterClass from our friends at Driver61. Now, the Sim Racing MasterClass is a training course for sim racers developed by Driver61, who also do tuition for real-world drivers from amateur to expert level. I have got to admit, I am incredibly skeptical about whether sim racing coaching works in a sim environment, so I went on the course to get an idea of what's involved and if it brings back any benefits really to me as a virtual motorsport driver. Now before we look at the course, we had a little chat with founder and head coach Scott Mansell about what Driver61 is and what they aim to deliver. Who is Scott Mansell and who are Driver61?
Well, I'm a ex-professional racing driver and now a coach. I run Driver61. I raced professionally for many years in single-seaters and GT cars. Having driven with Red Bull, with Team Arden, if you remember Christian Horner's team there. And I've driven over 25 Formula One cars. Since then, I've started Driver61 and we train amateur and professional sim racers and real world drivers as well. Well, first of all, the crossover with real world and sim racing is getting closer and closer each day as the software develops and becomes more realistic. I'd say that at the moment, probably 80% of the skills that you have in the real world overlay with the sim. And then there are some sim specifics that you have to kind of change your style slightly when you are training for the sim. We train AM drivers and alien drivers as well, but we mainly focus on the fundamentals of driving. So we try to empower our pupils with understanding the theory behind why they're making the decisions that they are on track and how they can kind of self-coach and improve their driving.
Now, in terms of the course itself, it's broken up into easily digestible parts. So we have 4 coach sessions by a real live instructor using the iRacing platform in the Mazda MX-5. The coach sessions have different topics in each session, and prior to that you will have a briefing session with Scott from Driver61. You'll be given some resources, some tips, some techniques and some training to take away and do at your own pace before, at the end of the programme, getting down into a Zoom session with the real world instructor, and he sees exactly how you've developed those skills, how you're putting them into practice. They will look at your works in small groups. You will have some dedicated time with that instructor to look at what you're doing, how you're doing it, get some tips and some advice to make sure that you're delivering the exact performance and technique that they have tried to teach you. Now, of course, some things they tell you about an experienced driver will already know, and some things I've found have been really useful because they're new techniques or reaffirming techniques that I'm already doing. So we've seen things like racecraft, which is always valuable for a sim racer in the heat of battle. We've seen things like looking at where your eyesight is on the track. So you're looking at the apex, you're looking at the corner exit, you're looking back at the apex to position your car, your vision, so to speak. We've looked at all sorts of braking and how you can manipulate the brakes to get the car to do things that normally it wouldn't be able to do. So how you can affect oversteer and understeer, how you can pivot the car on certain points. And then we've looked at things like the edge of grip. So how the grip in the car, you can do different behaviours to get the car to induce understeer or oversteer, to get the car to behave more consistently, more reliably when you're racing and driving, which are all incredibly useful things, real practical tips applied as well. The big question I suppose you're all asking is, has it made me any faster? Do I recommend it? Did I like it? Is there anything I would do differently? Now, in terms of things I would do differently, we'll start with that one first. The set sessions on Zoom with the driver coach are set times and dates. I've already spoken to Driver61 and they are looking at potentially expanding this out into a larger grouping of times and dates for different time zones, different people's availabilities. That's one thing I would absolutely love to see, is a brilliant step forward. But in terms of everything else, having access to the videos, which are really simple, well thought out, straight to the point, to the resources, to the written text, and then eventually to the actual physical coach watching me perform, That's really something I'm quite impressed with. I'd also like to see it expanded wider than just iRacing, which is the simulation of choice at the moment. For me, I'm not an iRacer, my experience level is not that high in the sim, but I can see why they've done that one. It's available to a wide variety of people, it's a highly adopted sim. Maybe this is an early access program, so it is developing and changing over time, so maybe they will expand that further with other sims later down the line, would be great. Overall, has it made me faster? I would argue it has potentially made me slightly faster. I've reaffirmed some behaviours on the brakes that I maybe wasn't quite applying properly in my sim racing prior, which has got me a little bit more lap time. But most importantly, it's made me more consistent. I'm now doing things, the right thing, at the right time, on a consistent basis. It isn't yet muscle memory, I'm still applying a little bit of my brain, thinking about what I need to do and when. But as that becomes more practiced, more embedded, I can refer back to my training materials to make sure I've remembered it correctly. That will become muscle memory, and that mental capacity can be used elsewhere. So it's absolutely made me a more consistent driver, potentially made me a little bit quicker as well, but I'm a very experienced sim racer, I'm half decent at it. I'd imagine somebody with less experience, somebody who needs to build their confidence, will find heaps of time. At the moment, the course is $99. Race Department Premium members will get a 25% discount on that price, making it $74.99, which is a really, really competitive opening gambit for this kind of thing. Pricing will likely go up as it goes through its, for want of a better word, early access phase. But for me, I honestly recommend the Driver 61 Sim Fundamentals coaching. I've really enjoyed the process. It's been easy to engage with, easy to consume. I've picked up some really useful tips. I've reaffirmed by an actual professional driver some of the things I am doing, that I'm doing them correctly. And in that regard, it's been totally invaluable. So, without further ado, I'm going to move on now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. You can find us at Race Department on social media. You can find us on Twitch and on YouTube where you're watching now. So please do give us a like and subscribe. Driver 61 can be found online as well. Driver 61. Go to their website. There's a host of free resources on their YouTube channel already that you can have a look at and get an idea of what they do. And of course, the Sim Racing Fundamentals Masterclass is open periodically, so keep checking back for when registration's open. I do recommend it. It's been a great course. It's been great fun. Thank you to Driver 61 and Scott Mansell, and thank you all very much for tuning in. Until next time, ta-ra.